Hello, my name is Martin Omander and I welcome you to Google Root Access, the show where startups and investors share their experiences and lessons they've learned. Today I'm joined by Nicolai Wadstrom from the investor Bootstraplabs. Nicolai, would you tell us a bit about Bootstraplabs?
So we are a global venture investment company, and we try to find the top talented founders around the world, invest in them and help them build global companies. What makes us a little bit different is that we don't really care where they're from, if they're from Silicon Valley or outside, and the majority of our deal flow actually comes from outside of Silicon Valley. But we always bring part of the team to Silicon Valley to benefit from this fantastic ecosystem to build companies. But they usually stay and build at the end. They usually have more employees where they originally started. So we're trying to keep that hub. One good example of a past portfolio companies is a company called Prezi, which started in Budapest in Hungary about 5 years ago. So they've grown from 6 people back then to 270 something, I think, today.
It's a great product. I've used it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's amazing, and that's the exciting thing. People get so excited about the product itself.
Oh yeah,
right? It sells itself in that sense.
Great.
Yeah.
So, Nicolai, both you and I have a past as programmers and chasing semicolons and such, and which is great fun. But some people say that technology doesn't really matter. All that matters is the idea or the team. Others say that technology is very important for what platform or technology a startup picks. How do you, when you look at investments, how do you look? Do you look at the technology a startup built on?
Absolutely, I think it's super important, but the core thing is really, of course, the team and the ability to execute at the end of the day. So because we invest early on in a post-accelerator seed stage, well, and having a technology background for me is very helpful to understand, what they're building, how competitive it is, and the opportunity is, and all these things. But looking at technology early on and how they go about it is really crucial for us to understand how that team think. Right, and how they try to use that as an advantage to move faster and quicker, figure things out. So that's kind of, the team is the most important, but technology and how down the line it becomes really crucial how they apply technology, of course. But,
how they apply technology, got it, yeah. Got it. So do you still program any, by the way?
I do. I try to keep pretty brain. So I would, if I leave my Swedish culture behind, I'm actually damn good still. I'm pretty good.
Great. I try to program a little every now and then as well, just to keep the skills sharp.
Yeah. Some real work every now and then.
Some real work. There we go. So, what are your criteria for looking at determining if a technology that a startup has is interesting or right now, or if it isn't?
Well, so looking at new innovation ideas, and yes, it's about ideas, but we invest in technology, so being able to apply technology at the end of the day that has impact and create efficiencies is really important. Vetting criteria, we'll look at, let's step back 2 seconds. So looking at areas where we go in and invest and deciding if whatever these founders are very passionate about and trying to build is relevant and interesting. I try to look at the bigger technology landscape. It becomes all built software. It comes like an architecture map of a value chain from one end to another where value is being received. And some of these pieces of technology are commoditized. And that's an advantage because that means you can focus on building value on top. Like Clayton Christensen says, when it becomes commoditized, the value and innovation is above and below, right?
Oh, right.
So it's the same thinking. But so look at pieces, and there's lots of things through open source software libraries that are readily available, and things like that you can use, and then iterate much quicker on top of that. There are services like the Google App Engine that allows you to focus maybe on the functionality of your app that's closer to where you add value on your mobile phone versus a lot of infrastructure on the back end to scale. Right. And early on, this becomes really even more important because when you iterate and try to find a product market fit, what is really relevant or what people even care about, the quicker you can move, the better, right? How do you get to build data points and validate those assumptions?
Ah, right, I see. So that actually leads me to the next question, which is, some people say build quick and dirty, you're going to throw it away anyway. And others say, no, you're actually going to build a business on this and make revenue. You need to build something that works and scales. I imagine the startups that you invest in, you give them advice on this. What kind of advice do you give them?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, because something that comes out is like, should I do this? Quick and dirty, or should I build a stable platform? And the CEO says, build quick and dirty, and the CEO says, no, it needs to be a stable platform so we can. At the end of the day, what our advice is really, this changes over time. A startup go through phases and metamorphoses between them, right? Early on, it's really, really crucial just to find what people care about. So you build quickly, push it out, get data points, what people really care about, assumptions, to turn into data points, and you measure, you learn, and you iterate that way, right? Once you figure those things out, a lot of mechanics change. How you apply technology, lots of other pieces of the startup, how you scale it to end users, and there's a lot of growth hacking aspects. But if we talk about the technology, all of a sudden you need to be able to sustain, heavy load, growth, and all these things. So a proper technology platform that can handle that becomes really important really quickly. And a lot of startups, that is a hard jump, because from iterating quickly, hacking things together to test, and all of a sudden, it takes off. So what do you do? So again, I think there's a lot of ready-made commodity solutions that you don't need to build yourself, that you can rely on to quickly transition into that. And that's, I like the mix of, App Engine, the platform as a service, because you remove a lot of complexity on, storing massive amounts of data and retrieving it quickly, scaling out your web, scale out of your web servers and all that. But for other pieces, you might need to really manage parts of these things. For heavy processing, analytics, and all these things, you might need to build an infrastructure. Using infrastructure services is what everybody of our startups use. They don't have their own service. They really, well, there's one exception, but everybody else use really an infrastructure as a service. Google Compute Engine, for example, to assemble bricks together quickly up and down, and scale up when you need lots of processing, and scale down when you don't, and things like that.
So when do you advise startups to use platform as a service as Google App Engine versus infrastructure as a service like Google Compute Engine?
So it comes down to that. If most of the value out of the product they're building and they're iterating on is on the front end in a mobile app or such, right? I think the App Engine is perfect, because you can build and I think it's much better than things like Path, where you can really program the backend, right? But an App Engine, Google App Engine, you still deploy your applications, and you can still build a lot of logic and value add on the backend, which is important in my view to differentiate. But you take away some of the scaling issues and all those, so you can be really focused on that value. On the other hand, again, let's say you have massive amounts of data where you need to do customized analytics and analyze that data. You usually need to build some Hadoop cluster and some processing and customize a lot of things that happen on top. Then I would recommend to use the Google Compute Engine for that.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much, Nicolai, for your time and coming on here and telling us about sharing your experiences.
Of course.
We hope you found something you can use in your startup. Your input matters. Please leave your comments below. We read everything you write. To learn how Google can help your startup, go to developers.google.com/startups. If you would like to be a guest on the show, go to bit.ly/apply root access. That's it for now. See you next time.